So we're starting off with the debut album from Nirvana. So this one was released in 1989. Of course, it was released through Sub Pop Records, which was the record label that was based up in Seattle. There you go, Bleach. I always thought it was a very cool cover, to be honest. So obviously there's 4 members on the front cover of this. So we have Kurt Cobain obviously here at the front with unusually long hair. He always had something of a long hair, but on this one here, it's quite long. We've got, of course, Chris Novoselic here in the background, and what looks to be the strap he's wearing looks to have like a leopard print or a leopard skin effect to it, and I always thought that was a bit strange for a grunge band. On drums, of course, on this one was Chad Channing, and then Jason Everman is on guitar here, and he's credited with being on the album, but he actually doesn't appear on the album. And my understanding from what I've read is that Jason Everman, actually, his dad had some money, or a few quid as we say here in Ireland, and he paid for the recording of this album. So that was the reason that he got put on the cover and he got a credit on the album, was because his dad had paid for the recording of the album. So you might notice on the back, depending on what copy you have, there is a Geffen label here in the top corner. And the reason for that is that obviously Geffen, when they signed Nirvana, they decided that they wanted to re-release this album through the Geffen label. So all these albums got re-released, and it was, you still see Sub Pop appearing on the bottom. So so 1989, Sub Pop Original Sound Recordings, owned by Sub Pop. MCA Records are the exclusive licensees for the UK. All rights reserved, reproduction prohibited. So essentially Sub Pop did a deal with Geffen, whereby Geffen could re-release these under the Geffen name, but Sub Pop would get proceeds from it as well. So that was always very cool. Nirvana, they were looking after Sub Pop Records because they were so influential in the Seattle scene back in the late 1980s. Okay, we open it up then. We see there a picture of the band, and we can see Kurt is after jumping backwards into the drums. We've got Chad Channing here on the drums, looking very bemused. Chris Novoselic is probably well used to this. And then in the back, this guy, I think that might be Jason Everman in the back. I'm not 100% sure. And then when we open up the sleeve, we just see a picture of Chris Novoselic playing bass, which I always thought was very cool. So yeah, that's the packaging. On the back then, you can see the song listing. So I'll just go through the song listing for you. So it starts off with a song called Blue, which is a good song. Very good song to start the album, for the first song on the first album. And then it goes into Floyd the Barber, which is a fantastic song. Really heavy, great guitar riffs. Production on this one, I have to say, is really scant. You know, it was recorded for $600, so you can just imagine the restraints that they were under. But yeah, the production on this isn't great, I have to say. But moving on, About a Girl is probably the standout track on the album. It was one that Dave Grohl always thought was an excellent song. And one of the reasons, you know, he liked this album and he liked Nirvana and then went on to join the band. So I think that was always an important one. About a Girl is a great song. It's an absolutely brilliant song. And the next one then is School, which has a great riff to it. It's got that kind of great song. So that was brilliant. And you know, they're really kicking into gear in this album. Love Buzz is next, which I think was a cover or was based on a song by a Dutch band, so wasn't entirely their own. I don't know if that says it. Yeah, all songs written by Kurt Cobain except Love Buzz, written by Bobby Van Leeuwen. So that was a cover anyway, that one. The next one then, Paper Cuts, is a good song. Negative Creep is great. Scoff, should I say, Swap Meat, Mr. Moustache, Sifting, Big Cheese and Downer. So I haven't listened to this album in quite a while, okay? And last time I did listen to it, I did notice that the production, you know, it's still, after all these years and listening to Nirvana for so many years, I still have to say the production is not great on this album. I think there is some great songs on this album, but I don't think Nirvana would have gotten anywhere with just this album. It was very much an underground album, and I think it was never going to bring them to the mainstream. And I don't think it's a patch on the next one. So I am putting this on the second tier down. So I should probably explain. Top tier is no skips, perfect albums. The next tier is great album. The next tier is good album. And the bottom tier is bottom of the barrel. So on this one, Bleach, I'm putting it in the second tier, okay, of albums. So that's where I think this one belongs. Okay. The next one then, from 1991. This is when Dave Grohl had joined the band. Nirvana had hooked up with Butch Vig. They, of course, had signed to the David Geffen Company. And this is when this absolute classic was released. You know, this album, it's so influential. One of the most important rock albums of all time. One of the most important music albums of all time. Really changed things back in 1991. Just looking at the packaging then, you have the cover there, the famous cover with the baby, Spencer Eldon, I believe his name is. And he's chasing the dollar, and it just shows the dollar being hung from a line there. So it's like fishing, and yeah, iconic cover. It's you know, a take on capitalism and consumerism. But then the back then is pretty cool. It's got the monkey with the rocket pack strapped to him, and then it's got the list of tracks. So I always loved the way Nevermind was the logo of Nevermind, and obviously the logo of Nirvana is fantastic. But the logo of Nevermind in that kind of a bubble wavy text, like it's under the swimming pool, I always thought that was amazing. An absolutely brilliant album. I love the colour of it, everything about it. So when we go down, then produced obviously by Butch Vig, produced and engineered by Butch Vig and Nirvana, and mixed by Andy Wallace. Now, if you're not aware, Andy Wallace, he was involved in mixing so many classic records, like Rage Against the Machine, Nirvana, obviously, so many more. He's just recently this week done an interview with Rick Beato, and I'd strongly recommend you go watch that if you have any interest at all in hard rock, heavy rock music, grunge, alternative and mixing. He knows his stuff, and Rick did a deep dive with him. I think it's like an hour and a half, the interview. I haven't actually got a chance to watch it yet, but it is red flagged. I'm going to watch it, but certainly go check that out on YouTube. So for this one here then, just going through the songs, starts off with Smells Like Teen Spirit, which of course is Nirvana's most famous song probably. Absolutely brilliant. I remember the first time I heard this song, blew me away, and it's been blowing me away ever since. It's just class, you know, that opening riff. We'll try play it. We may as well do something different here. Starts off with this so it's really jarring the way it starts off, you know, like them chords. So we're talking about an F bar chord or power chord there. So it's going from an F down to a B flat, and then it goes up to an A flat, down to a C sharp. So very odd chord voicings. They're not all in the same key, so it makes it sound like there to there already you're kind of feeling a little bit off, and then it goes, you know, and then it goes into the bass riff, which is just like this. It's very cool, and it keeps the song trucking along, of course, with excellent drums from Dave Grohl. And then Kurt is just working off the F, these two notes on the F. Just that the whole way through, letting them ring out there with plenty of chorus. And then, of course, that very memorable vocal line. So it's absolutely fantastic. Smells Like Teen Spirit, one of the most popular rock songs of all time, and one of the most well-known, and really opened the gates for Nirvana when this album was released, and this was the lead single. Of course, the video had a lot to do with it as well. Very influential video, and this album obviously recorded in Los Angeles at Sound City, but yeah, they recorded the video in LA as well, and just classic, really just at the right time. It was the right video at the right time for Nirvana, so it really propelled them into the starlight. And then we have In Bloom, which is another absolutely brilliant song, probably equally as good and equally as impactful as Smells Like Teen Spirit. You know, it's just it's got like that's like I haven't played it in years. I haven't played it in a long time, but yeah, absolutely brilliant. Used to play that in a band years ago. Just the choice of chords and everything there is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. In Bloom, brilliant. Again, another brilliant video, very memorable. The next one then is Come As You Are, which is again another classic. This album just has hit after hit after hit. Now I think you actually detuned the guitar for this one. We'll try it without detuning. Life. Come As You Are, again, another classic video and a very haunting song. You know, this is where things kind of get really, really deep in this album after the first two, you know, absolute monster tracks. Then it goes into Breathe, which again is another fantastic song, a real rocker. And then Lithium, which I haven't played this in a long time. Again, the choice of chords in these songs is amazing. You know, Kurt's just able to dive into like something that sounds really, really odd, but he makes it sound right. You know, even though it's dissonant. I think he's taken a lot of inspiration from the Beatles in terms of melodies and chord structures, and he's making it sound really, really dark. All the chords mightn't be necessarily in the key, but they work. He's using passing chords. He's using a lot of tones that are, you know, kind of deep. And this is what makes this album absolutely fantastic. It's not just the fantastic production by Butch Vig or the fact that they had Dave Grohl, a fantastic rock drummer, in the band for this album. Kurt is amazing in this album. You know, his guitar playing is amazing. I know a lot of people like to say he's not a fantastic guitar player, but like for me, he does the job on this album. You know, his guitars sound great. They sound really, really big. Butch obviously did a fantastic job recording, mixing, and mastering the guitars, but I think Kurt just had it nailed in terms of what he wanted to do with chords and songwriting and arrangements. It's absolutely fantastic. And again, as well, like, you know, I have to mention Chris Novoselic. He's not like one of those bass players that come to your mind when you think of fantastic bass players, but he really holds it down on this album. Like, there's absolutely no doubt about it. So I think Nevermind is one of my favourite albums, one of the best albums of all time. I should say, like, the rest of the album is absolutely knocking it out of the park. There's Polly, Territorial Pistons, absolutely brilliant, real punk rock song, loads of attitude. Then we've got Drain You, Lounge Act, Stay Away, On a Plane, Something in the Way. There's honestly no skips on this song, on this album, should I say. It's absolutely all killer, no filler from start to finish. And for me, it's in the top tier of Nirvana albums, without a doubt. Top tier of albums on any list, in my opinion. Okay, so now we move on to 1992. So obviously Nirvana, where they were huge at this time. I just have a Changing Over album. So at this point, Nirvana were massive. You know, they were one of the biggest bands in the world. And as a result of that, they really needed to put more material out. You know, people were hungry to hear more material from the band. So they decided, along with Geffen, to release this album, Incesticide, okay? So you can see the hype sticker. I actually took the hype sticker off originally when I bought this album, and then I glued it back on because I realised it was important. It was an important part of the information on this album. So it basically says rare B-sides, BBC sessions, original demo recordings, outtakes, and stuff never before available. So this one is a Geffen release, but it also has the Sub Pop label on it. So you can see Nirvana, they were very sure, or I suppose they were forward thinking, and they really wanted to put the Sub Pop label on all their albums to kind of pay respect to them, and also Sub Pop got a fee from all these albums. So I think it's an important point that Nirvana did. They were kind of honouring the Seattle sound, the Seattle scene, and all of that good stuff. So this one here, as I said, B-sides. There's a number of different musicians play on this one. Of course, you can see the artwork at the front there. I think it's absolutely amazing. And then on the back, you've got the duck and the song listing. It's actually 15 tracks on this album, so it's quite a long album for a B-sides. When you open it up inside, then you get a great photo of Kurt there playing in what seems like a chaotic gig, and then the CD there as well. We open up the liner notes. Not too much on this one. We go in there. We see all the members that contributed to this album. So we have Chris Novoselic, Kurt Cobain, Dave Grohl, obviously. And then we've Chad Channing. Who else played drums on this? There was a number of different drummers. The drummer from the Melvins, what was his name? It'll be written here somewhere. Sorry, I should know this. People are screaming at me now. Was it Dale Crover, was it? I need to look it up. That's going to annoy me now. There was a number of drummers came in on this album. And I need to find out who they were. I don't think we have too many people on the chat there anyway, so we'll be okay. Okay, here we go. So, people that appeared on the album: Chad Channing, Dan Peters, and Dale Crover. So Dan Peters, of course, was the drummer for Mudhoney, that's right. And then Dale Crover was the drummer for the Melvins, was he? Yeah, Crover was drummer in the Melvins. So, 4 different drummers: Chad Channing, Dan Peters, Dale Crover, and Dave Grohl. So, yeah, an absolutely brilliant album, this one, for a B-sides. I'll just run through some of the tracks on this one. So, starts off with Dive, which is a great song. Really, really deep cut there. Dark song from Kurt, but, you know, retaining all those elements that made Nirvana brilliant. You know, got great structure and great melodies and hooks on it. Then it goes into Sliver, Stain, and they're all brilliant. Then we move on to Being a Son, which is another great song. Some of these songs sound really, really poppy. And I think maybe that's why they might have been left off some of the other albums. Maybe they were considered too poppy, but they have no problem including them on this this B-sides album, you know. Then we have Turn Around, Molly's Lips, which is really, really poppy. I think there's a couple of songs here were written by the Vaselines. I think Eugene Kelly had written them from the Vaselines, and there's a mate of mine that I actually play in an open mic with. He is cousins with Eugene Kelly, so fun fact, the Vaselines played Dublin a few weeks ago, and he caught up with Eugene, and they were having the crack, as we say. But yeah, so Son of a Gun was written by, it doesn't say. Okay, Molly's Lips, written by Eugene Kelly, yeah. And Turn Around, does it say who that was being written by? Written by Mother's Back and G. Gable. So yeah, there's a couple of covers on this one. Not too many, but still is a couple of covers for pointing that out. The next one here is New Wave Polly, which is an electric version of Polly from Nevermind. So that's great. Great to hear a different version of that. Then we've got Beeswax, and then we go into a list of songs which I think are really, really dark and deep and heavy and are absolutely fantastic. Some of the best stuff Nirvana put out is on this album. So we've got Downer, Mexican Seafood, Hairspray Queen, Aero Zeppelin. And the interesting one about Aero Zeppelin was it's actually Kurt Cobain's 2 favourite bands, Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin, decided to just fuse the names together for that song. And then Big Long Now, and it finishes off with Aneurysm. So in my opinion, this is a strong album. Obviously the production's all over the place. You've got different drummers playing on it. There was different people had recorded it. It wasn't really produced in a sense, but something that the record company really wanted to get out, as Nirvana were riding on the crest of a wave. So for me, material-wise, I don't think it belongs in the top tier, but it's certainly a great album. I don't think it belongs anywhere lower than the second tier, in my opinion. Okay, next one. Moving on now to 1993. And this was where Nirvana were starting to, you know, plateau. They had all this success with Nevermind, and they were the biggest band in the world, and then things started to come down a little bit for them. And this album was released in utero. So the important thing about this album is that they decided to go with a different producer. So where Butch Vig was the producer on Nevermind, they decided to go with Steve Albini for this one in utero. And the whole thing about this album was Kurt really wanted to have a much rawer sound. He wanted to get away from the radio-friendly sound. Sorry, just grab my iPad here. He wasn't happy with the way the band were going. They were probably too mainstream for him, and as a result of that, he decided to bring in Steve Albini and basically, just record something that was a lot raw, a lot maybe less commercial, less produced, less polished, all that good stuff. So that's where this album had come from. Basically, the record label, when the album was finished, they weren't overly happy with it, and they decided to give two of the songs, the two singles off it, to who was it? It was Scott Litt and Adam Casper, and they decided to let them mix and master those particular songs, much to the annoyance of Kurt. But those two songs were All Apologies and Heart Shaped Box, so they were actually engineered and mixed by Scott Litt and Adam Casper. So I thought that was interesting. I do think the production on this album is a bit raw, to be honest. I'm not overly fond of the production. There's some great songs on the album, but I think the production lets it down. So I'll just give you a quick look at the liner notes, or the sleeve there. So here's the internal liner notes on the album. You see there that sort of an aerial shot of the band playing, which is very cool. And then we get the guys at Christmas there, her Christmas hats. And then we have at the end here, Kurt in a wheelchair. And of course, when they played Reading on this tour, Kurt came out in a wheelchair because there was a lot of talk that he was very sick and he couldn't make it to the gig. So he was basically just taking the piss of people. And then we go in here. I always thought that was a very haunting shot there of Kurt with the pink hair and the Flipper t-shirt, but it looks like he's just written that Flipper in marker. Flipper were obviously one of his favorite bands at the time. And then we have another picture here of the stage being destroyed. Here at the end we can see the drums are destroyed and Kurt's lying on the ground. So yeah, pretty cool liner notes and sleeve on this one. But yeah, an excellent piece of art. So I'll just run through the tracks on this one. So it starts off with Serve the Servants, which I think is a great track. Again, production's a little raw, but I think it's one of the best tracks on the album. A great starter. Then we have the Sentinel's Apprentice, which is really, really heavy, and yeah, it's kind of setting the tone for the album on this one. You know, this isn't going to be a radio friendly album. Then we went to Heart Shaped Box, which is absolutely fantastic. One of their biggest hits, I suppose, at the time. It's a great album, Heart Shaped Box, yeah, or a great song, should I say, Heart Shaped Box. Really like that one. Then we went to Rape Me, which, of course, I think Kurt wanted to put out as a single, typical Kurt, but the record label wouldn't allow it. But yeah, it was that one got a lot of controversy at the time, I do remember. Then Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle, which is a good song. Dumb is a great song. Very Ape, brilliant. Milk It. We have Penny Royalty, which is brilliant, and that turns up later in another live album. Radio Friendly Unit Shifter, that was taking the piss of the record company, but again, another brilliant song. Tourette's, and then it finishes off with All Apologies, and then you get an international bonus track on this one as per the hype sticker. And the international bonus track on this one is Gallons of Rubbing Alcohol Flowing Through the Strip. So yeah, it's a bit of an odd album, to be honest with you. I don't know. I think it probably doesn't deserve to be on the top tier. I just think the production is poor on it, and I don't think it deserves to be up there. I'm going to put it down here on the second tier, okay, of Nirvana albums. And I know people might be screaming at me saying, how can you think Nevermind is better than In Utero? But I've always felt that way. I've always felt that Nevermind was the best Nirvana album. You'll also notice I'm not putting anything on the third tier with Nirvana so far anyway. Like they're all top albums, but we have to choose what's better. And I think In Utero deserves to be in the second tier here. But top of the second tier. I think it's a better album than Bleach. So we'll stick that in there. Okay, next one up was after Kurt passed away, unfortunately. This one was the MTV Unplugged, of course, from 1994. So, of course, Kurt passed away in April of 1994, and then this album was released in November of 1994, I believe. So, yeah, this one is an absolute classic for me. I think this one was every bit as important as Nevermind with bringing Nirvana to the mainstream. On this album, they decided to do something completely different. So Pearl Jam had done the MTV Unplugged in 1992, I believe, and they pretty much just played the hits from 10, and there was a proper full mic'd up drum kit there with Dave Abruzzese absolutely going mental on it. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Pearl Jam, the MTV Unplugged, but I think Kurt wanted to do something completely different for MTV Unplugged. I see a couple of people online there. Please put some chats in if you've any comments on what I'm doing here on the Nirvana ranking. I would love to hear your feedback. But yeah, essentially on this one, MTV Unplugged, they decided to do, or Kurt decided to do, different songs, deep cuts, you know, none of the hits really, and he decided to play a lot of covers as well. So it was a bit, you know, I suppose people were unsure how this would go down, and I'm sure that if there was a lot of people there on the night, they maybe thought, you know, okay, I don't know many of these songs, but I think in retrospect, this album has, you know, gone down in history as an absolutely classic live album and one of the best MTV live albums that was released in that whole era. So we'll start off. It starts off with About a Girl, which is absolutely fantastic. I'll just strum these chords now. He was tuned down a half step for this, but it's very simple. It just goes from A minor. Typical Kurt. Brilliant song. Great way to start an album like this, you know, a live album and an unplugged album. So yeah, About a Girl kicks it off, and then it's Come As You Are, which is probably the biggest hit on the album. Absolutely brilliant. And then he does Jesus Don't Want Me for a Sunbeam, which is again another Vaseline song. Kurt was a massive fan of the Vaselines and Eugene Kelly. Then we move into The Man Who Sold the World, which was a cover of a David Bowie song, and I think this version is actually better than the David Bowie version. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Really love that song. Played it many times live. Then we have Penny Royalty, which sounds amazing live. You know, absolutely brilliant. Is it D&G? I think it's E minor to D. Yeah, great song. Only really 3 or 4 chords in it, but absolutely fantastic. Brilliant songwriting by Kurt. And he does this one on his own. He actually sings and plays Penny Royalty on his own, and it sounds phenomenal. And you can hear a pin drop on the recording of this when it was live in the theatre. The next one then we come into is Dumb, which sounds really, really good live. Cool bass riff on that one. Then we have Polly, which again, Polly is a great song that's made for this. And then we go into some of the tracks on the second half of Nevermind, where I said, you know, there's no skips on that album. We've got On a Plane and Something in the Way, which both sound fantastic. I think they brought in Laurie Goldstein on the cello for Something in the Way, and it sounds great. Then they bring in the Meat Puppets, and that's again another band that Kurt Cobain was a massive fan of. And they bring those guys in to play 3 songs of theirs, okay? So you've got the Meat Puppets, you've got Kurt, Pat, Chris, and I think Laurie is still there, and of course you've got Dave Grohl. So they play Plateau, Oh Me, and Lake of Fire. So, you know, absolutely brilliant. I think if we're counting the covers on this, right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 covers from 12 so far. So it's almost half the songs are covers so far. Then All Apologies, which is again brilliant acoustically, absolutely brilliant. This song was made to be played acoustic, and then a cover then to finish it off by who is it? Lead Belly, and it's Where Did You Sleep Last Night, which I think Kurt does an absolutely fantastic job on. So for me, this is a classic album. I think it's top tier. I think it's better than In Utero. Sorry, I know people are going to disagree with me, but in my opinion, it's right up there with Nevermind. I think Nevermind is their best album, and this one is their second best. So yeah, unfortunately, it was released after Kurt passed away, but I still think it's one of their best. It's a phenomenal piece of work. Okay, so we're going to put that one in there. MTV Unplugged. in New York. Okay. And then the last album I have on this ranking is this one here, From the Muddy Banks of the Wiscaw. Now, of course, those of you from in and around the state of Washington or Seattle will know that the Wiscaw is the river that flows through Seattle. I didn't know that until I had to go and check that one out. But essentially what this album is it's a live album, and it's outtakes and recordings of songs in various locations on tour. And they've put it together in a kind of like a set list sort of a vibe. It was released in 1996. Apparently it took a while for Chris Novoselic and Dave Grohl to agree the rights to release this one with Courtney Love and whatnot. But eventually they got it all ironed out and they were able to release this. I think it's really, really good. It's not perfect. It's typical Nirvana. It's what you expect. It's full of energy and passion and it's raw. But yeah, it's class. So on the front, you've got photographs of all the band members, just basically different shows and different band members, which is brilliant. And then as we go in, you'll see there that the CD is very cool. It's black and white and just a trash stage after Nirvana had finished. And then you have the 3 band members here rocking it out on the inside sleeve. And then when we move on here, we'll see you've actually got, I think it's really cool, the inner sleeve. You've got a picture of Pat Smear here as well. So he was part of the band at the time when this was recorded, or when these shows were recorded, or some of these shows anyway. So he's included there, which I think is very cool. And then you've got, yeah, of course, plenty of photos there of Kurt and Chris and Dave. We get the set list here, or the list of songs, and then there's a commentary there from Chris Novoselic, which is brilliant. And then at the back, one of the most famous photos of Nirvana ever, this one here, where they're kind of sitting down and chilled out and Chris is in the back. I think it's very cool. One of the best ones. Yeah, absolutely excellent. Sorry, I was reading some of the notes just on, like, all songs written by Kurt Cobain except Smells Like Teen Spirit, Sentence Apprentice, and Aneurysm. Lyrics Kurt Cobain, music Nirvana. So interesting to see that was the agreement that was made. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. I love this album. I think it's fantastic. So I'll just run through the track listing on this, and then we'll put it up on the board to let you know where I think this album deserves to be. So it starts off with an intro, then it goes into School, followed by Drain You, and then Aneurysm. So really kicking out the blocks with the first few songs. Then Smelled Like Teen Spirit, Being a Sun, Lithium. So getting plenty of Nevermind stuff there. Then we go into Sliver, Spank Through, which I believe hadn't appeared on any releases before this. Maybe on some bootlegs and stuff, but no official releases. So that was cool to get that song. Then we've Scentless Apprentice, Heart-Shaped Box, and Milk It, which are all, of course, from a Neutro. Negative Creep from Bleach, and then Polly, Breed, and it ends with Tourette's and Blue. Blue from, of course, Insecticide. So, yeah, I think a very cool album. Definitely a great album. Not a good album. It's better than good, but I don't think it's top tier either. And I think it's probably the lowest rated album on my list because I think that just the other albums are better. So there you go. It's very rare now when I'll do a ranking like this and I will not have anything in the 2 lower tiers. So that just shows you how much Nirvana mean to me. So we'll start off again. In 6th place, we've got From the Muddy Banks of the Wiscaw. From 5th place, then we've got Incesticide. In 4th place, we've got Bleach, the original studio album, or first studio album, debut album. Then we've got in 3rd place, In Utero, of course, produced by Steve Albini, 1993 studio release. In my opinion, 2nd best album Nirvana ever released. Again, a perfect album, no skips. Is Unplugged in New York. I think it sounds amazing, fantastic. And then, in my opinion, the best Nirvana album, and always will be, in my opinion, is, of course, Nevermind. So I hope you enjoyed my ranking video. It was good to see a few people coming on there. Didn't get many comments, but thanks for jumping on anyway. I really appreciate that. If you could let me know in the comments below what your ranking of Nirvana's best albums are from 6 to 1, I would greatly appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the like button, and if you could also subscribe, it really helps with the channel and I really appreciate it. Okay guys, this has been a long one on a late Friday night, so I am going to be heading to bed now and I will see you later. So I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye for now.